Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm putting together another historical military surplus presentation, this time focusing on a Spanish Mauser bayonet, specifically the model of 1892 revised in 93. While researching the 1892-93 bayonet, I discovered that some examples are marked for export, with markings that likely date from much later, possibly anywhere from the 1950s to the 1980s. This immediately raised some interesting questions. The Model 1892-93 bayonet was originally manufactured for use with the Spanish Model 1893 Mauser rifle. There was also a Model 1893 bayonet, which appears to have been more commonly issued alongside the 1893 Mauser. Spain seems to have been under significant pressure to manufacture arms in the 1890s, and likely, due to colonial unrest and overseas commitment, and as a result, attempted to produce as many bayonets as possible during this period. Because of this, Model 1892-93 bayonets were produced both domestically in Spain, notably at Toledo, as well as in Germany. Although the 1892-93 bayonet was intended for the 7mm Spanish Mauser, it is very similar overall to the Model 1893 bayonet. The primary difference lies in the grip. The 1892-93 uses a more traditional German-style knife handle, while the Spanish Model 1893 typically has a flatter, more distinct Spanish grip profile. Recently, Apex Gun Parts released a new lot of Model 1892-93 bayonets in 4 distinct variations. There were unmarked examples, bayonets marked for export, Toledo-marked bayonets produced for Spanish military service, and German-made bayonets with German markings. Notably, the Spanish and German-marked bayonets generally have serial numbers, suggesting that they were issued or at least accepted into the Spanish military service. In contrast, the unmarked and export-marked bayonets lack serial numbers, which strongly suggests they may have never been formally issued. The second group, especially the export-marked bayonets, is particularly puzzling. The export markings appear consistent with much later Spanish arms production markings, roughly overlapping with the era of the CE-TME battle rifle beginning in the 1950s. Since the CE-TME was exported in numerous countries, it is possible that the older small ring Mauser bayonets were included alongside these sales, either to support reserve forces or to equip older rifles still in service. Assuming the entire Apex lot originated from a single source, this would mean all 4 variants, Spanish, German, export marked, and unmarked, were stored together at some point, either in Spain or another country that acquired them in bulk. My working theory is that Spain discovered a quantity of older, unused 1892-93 bayonets still in storage, and the lack of serial numbers supports the idea that these bayonets never saw active service, for the ones without serial numbers. Rather than scrapping them, Spain may have prepared them for export, or actually shipped them to nations still using small ring Mauser rifles during the Cold War. In my research, I found that the most likely candidates are the various regimes in the former Belgian Congo and in Equatorial Guinea. During the Congo crisis, which took place roughly between 1960 and 1965, forces in the region did acquire CE-TME rifles, and it's possible that the older Mauser pattern rifles were still limited use. For example, the Belgian Model 1889 rifle, which was originally chambered in 7.65 Mauser, may have remained in service, and these rifles could possibly accept the 1892-93 bayonet. The 7.65 Argentine definitely does. So while I don't have an example or know anyone with an example of a 7.65 Belgian, I think it does make sense that the bayonets would be interchangeable. If the bayonets were exported, as these markings indicate, this region does seem like a strong possibility. Another candidate is Equatorial Guinea, a former Spanish colony that gained independence in 1968, largely through nonviolent means. Equatorial Guinea did receive CE-TME rifles from Spain, and may have also acquired older Mauser bayonets for reserve rifles, such as the Spanish Model 1893 or the Model of 1941, both of which could accept small ring Mauser bayonets, and the Model 1941 would do so with the use of an adapter. The main hesitation I have with this theory is the export marking itself. If the bayonets were sent to Spanish Guinea prior to independence, it seems odd that they would be marked as exports, rather than as equipment intended for Spanish colonial forces. That said, it's possible these transfers could have occurred after 1968, or that colonial shipments were administratively treated as exports, even if it seems a bit counterintuitive. Unfortunately, there is very little detailed research available on the Model 1892-93 bayonet or Spanish military surplus more broadly. As a result, much of this analysis is speculative and based on the limited evidence that we do have, such as the existence of serial numbers, the manufacturing marks, and the changes in the Toledo logo over time, which appear on all Toledo-made bayonets. What makes this bayonet especially interesting is the juxtaposition of eras. It's a weapon that was originally produced in the 1890s, bearing markings that suggested export during the CTME era, when small ring Mausers were already 2 generations out of date. Still, though, during the Cold War, these rifles often remained in secondary reserve or police service, while frontline troops received more modern weapons. Today, Spanish military surplus remains very affordable, and among late 19th century military equipment, Spanish blades are some of the most accessible on the market. With so many examples still circulating, it's fascinating to encounter an 1890s bayonet bearing markings from the mid-20th century and to speculate about the circumstances that led to that combination. I wanted to share this unusual case and explore why such an anachronistic marking might exist. If you have additional information or insights, please feel free to share them in the comments. As always, please like and subscribe for more military surplus analysis. Thank you for watching.